I-2 zoning district. So as it's a permitted use, we're looking at this as a combined preliminary final site plan. The combined preliminary final site plan is an option that the applicant has. The Planning Commission, if at your choosing, may separate these. So if there's something that is not understanding, or you're not understanding something, or the applicant is not providing the information required, the Planning Commission actually has the authority to split this into a preliminary and a final if you'd like. The applicant is not requesting that. They're requesting that it be combined into one step. And generally speaking, this is a pretty simple site plan. So I think the combined preliminary final request from the applicant is valid in this case, and we would not recommend that it be split. But that is something that the Planning Commission could do if we get into the report, and it sounds like you would rather just approve the preliminary, not both steps at the same time. So we have our report. I'm not going to go through every section of this, but one of the things that stood out, and I think the applicant's engineer will be able to address this, on the Washtenaw County GIS mapping, virtually this entire site is shown, or almost the entire site is shown as a wetland area. And that designation, as depicted in the county GIS mapping, coincides to a certain degree with the soils mapping for the county. There's also the soil mapping would indicate that the soils would be conducive to a wetland as well. Of course, this is within an industrial park. I think the applicant will be able to address this. There's no wetland plants, and so we would just like the applicant to verify for the record that that this area, in fact, is not a wetland, because it does show up on the county mapping, and we felt compelled to raise that issue. The only other item we have is that the applicant does show phase 2 on the site plan at some future time, and we just wanted to let the applicant know and the Planning Commission, if the phase 2 were ever to occur, that of course this will have to come back in front of the Planning Commission for review and approval. Right now we're just looking at the phase 1, and that phase 2 would require not only site plan approval but review of parking and all those other issues. We have no issue with the landscape plan, lighting plan. The signage will have to be verified. The facade indicated there could be some wall signs here, but those details were not provided. Typically, we do like to see signs on the site plan, but that is a separate application that the applicant will have to make to the city. And perhaps they can provide a little information on what signage they're proposing. We have no issue with the floor plans and elevations, except there is a slight discrepancy in the square footage. We found a note on the plan that indicated the building was 7,800 square feet, and we believe the site scales at 6,400 square feet. So I think just that one note has to be changed to reflect the 6,400 square foot side. A real minor issue, but something that should be cleared up prior to the start of construction. And we have, on page 4 and 5 of our review, we have 8 items that I've gone over for the most part. Those items should be addressed to the satisfaction of the Planning Commission prior to this project being approved. But we are, as you can see, we are recommending approval as long as those conditions are addressed to the Planning Commission's satisfaction. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that the Commission might have on our report.
Any questions for Doug? Go ahead.
You said there's going to be space for viewing, family viewing. Do we know what possible, if there were a large funeral, how many people would be coming, and would that be an overflow in the parking area?
It's my understanding from the description that this facility is not being developed to have funerals. rather than, or rather, it's supposed to be kind of similar to, after the funeral, if you were to drive to a cemetery plot, this is a very limited number of seats. It's not supposed to be for memorial services.
Okay.
The applicant made clear in their application material that this was not a funeral home. This is, the small area they have is for, and now, I don't know if the applicant's here or the applicant's engineer can address this, but it's my understanding that was just a small area for family, close friends, for, the deceased person before, kind of similar to when you drive to a cemetery after a funeral. So
Okay.
I wouldn't expect there to be, dozens of people or, showing up at something like this.
Thank you.
A couple of questions. Going to move this for a second. Easier to talk. So did the ZBA just interpret the ordinance that this is a permitted use, or was there a variance or any sort of special use granted?
I believe this was an interpretation of the zoning board of appeals.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And then with regard to the wetlands, what exactly is involved in verifying? Or is Midwestern going to do a survey, or?
So I can touch on that. Midwestern did update the site plan since Doug has done this review. Part of their due diligence was doing test pits, and they did not find this to be wetlands.
Who actually regulates that? Would they have to get a permit from Eagle? Do we have any setback?
Carl, you want to touch on that?
And we can defer if they speak. I'm just curious about the process. I don't have an issue with this. It looks like a good plan, but I am curious. And Doug, I had one final question. My understanding is if we approve a final site plan tonight, we're not going to be given an opportunity to pass again on whether these, these items 1 through 8 are satisfactorily addressed. That would be administratively approved?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we also have a report from OHM. Mike, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I'll touch on this. Like most of OHM's reports, a lot of it is just clarifying data and editing and having them edit the site plan to meet state standards. Based on my first review of this, when Midwestern got us the report back, it does look like they have addressed the majority of OHM's recommendations. Naturally, I'm not an engineer, but this has been shared with Miss Sally at OHM to do the verification. That is why when you'll see in my memo, there is the recommendation to approve with these conditions pending OHM and DPW review. This has also been shared with DPW. Naturally, last week, they had a very hectic week, so Mr. Larry at DPW hasn't had a full chance to dive into this. But as of right now, it does look like they have addressed most of these.
Dean?
Mike, I have a concern about OHM because generally they always recommend no approval. And so here's another one that has 22 items on it. And again, they don't recommend, and I know you just said that you reviewed all those items, but what kind of confirmation do we get back from them that says, yeah, we've checked the list on it, even though it's in your memo? Do we have an actual document?
So, for example, we did this with American Soy. What happens is when Sally does a subsequent review, she submits a letter noting she is satisfied with everything. So we get a final review letter from OHM saying they are satisfied with the site plan. And then that's kept in our file with the site.
But actually, this planning commission is approving a document that isn't really certified.
That's why you have the condition. So if OHM never signs off on it, then the site plan is never fully approved.
That's it for me right now.
And then the last recommendation I had in my memo, naturally with any site plan we do, we are always trying to encourage sidewalks. Naturally with Teft Court, there are no sidewalks on there. So the theory is throw a condition on there to put, I only put a sidewalk in is a recommendation from our engineers to specify that some more, to say a 5-foot wide sidewalk at the request of the city. Naturally, if the city ever does decide to expand our sidewalk program through Teft Court, it would be good to have this tagged to the site as well. But yeah, at this time, there doesn't appear to be a need to put one since there are no other sidewalks in Teft Court.
Any more questions or concerns? Okay, we have a motion to acknowledge the receipt of the report dated October 28th, 2021 from Planner Luan, dated October 28th, 2021 from OHM, and the memo dated November 3rd from Mr. Green.
Move to acknowledge.
Second.
It has been moved, Mayor Morrow, and seconded Troika. All those in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. Now, this is the time where we give the developer a chance to come on up and give us your thoughts and your ideas.
Hello, my name is Earl. Let's try it this way. My name is Earl Ophoff from Midwestern Consulting, and Dutch Nye is one of the owners. He's here as well. The questions I think that you asked were in fact addressed in the response letter to the report, and I'll just reiterate a couple of points here. On the wetland question, if in fact it was a wetland, OHM's report notes that you would probably need, they're not being definitive, but they're saying you would need at least a review by the county and the state, and most likely a permit would be from the state. I should point out that, yes, it's true that both the map that Doug was looking at does show this soil type as being a wetland soil, but wetlands have three primary criteria. One is the type of soil, two is the presence of water, and the third one is the presence of wetland vegetation, and you have to have those things. And one of the things we determined by digging the test pits to a depth of about 6 feet is that there was no standing water, no water table in there at all, and no wetland vegetation. So the soils are proper, the other things aren't there. Signage, yes, we do show a sign on the building, and we had clarified with the architect that there is, I think it was 72 square feet of signage shown on the building face, and you could have 80 was the maximum. We understand that that's a separate permit for signage. The sidewalk condition, I think, is reasonable. The question about the 7,800 square foot number on the development summary, there was a little bit of confusion there, because what we had anticipated in calculating the proposed number of parking spaces was we put in the amount of, and this is written as a footnote on the plan, we put in the amount of warehouse use in the phase one area, which I think was 1,200 plus square feet. And we added to that the 6,400 square feet in the potential future building. And together, those things came up to 7,800 square feet, and that would require 4 spaces, and we calculated that and provided that in the initial number of parking spaces. The concern, I think, Mr. Carroll had about whether this would be a place where funerals and potentially large numbers of people, I think Dutch can address that if you need further clarification, but the answer there is yes. There's, generally speaking, very few people come to this part of it. It's very much like going to the cemetery for the actual interment. So we don't anticipate any greater need than that. On the other hand, if there was, there would be, of course, plenty of parking in the donut in Teft Court and all around that area. Thank you.
Any questions for the developer? Do you guys have a number of the amount of employees that will be working out of here? That would be for
I would have to ask Dutch that.
2? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there is a motion for an open public hearing.
Move to open the public hearing at 7:18.
Second.
Moved Mayor Morrow, seconded Carroll, to open the public meeting. Any comments from anybody?
We need to vote on that. Got to
Oh, I'm
vote on
sorry.
that. Yep. we're good.
All those in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, public meeting is open. Not seeing any.
Move to close. Second.
There's a motion to close by Dean, seconded Chief Hart. All those in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Ayes have it. Comments, questions from planning commissioners? Any concerns? Dean?
Just another clarification. On the one indication in Midwestern's note, it says the city will inspect all soil erosion measures prior to the start of construction. Is that our responsibility? I thought the county did that for us.
It's county. At the end of the day, we get the county permit, and we help enforce that, but the county is the one that issues the soil erosion permits.
So they will do the inspection and let us know
Yep.
the requirements in here that are met. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that because it makes it sound like the city will do it.
Okay, not seeing any more questions or concerns. There is a motion to approve both combined preliminary and final site plan. Not approve or approve with the conditions. What's your pleasure?
I will move to approve both the preliminary and final site plan as presented with the 22 conditions and the OHM report satisfactorily addressed, which I know some have been, as well as the conditions specified in the Carlisle-Waltman report.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded Young. So it's moved Troika and seconded Young as it reads. Discussion. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be voting in favor of the motion. I would have preferred some of these comments and, I guess, for lack of a better way to articulate it, deficiencies that were addressed in the OHM report resolved before tonight's meeting. But overall, I think this is a good plan, and I think the enterprise is complementary and a good use of a parcel that has been within the our municipal portfolio for many years. So obviously, as I've articulated in the past, one of the goals is to move these parcels from public ownership to private ownership, get them added to the tax rolls, see jobs created, and offer new and different amenities and services to our constituents. I would ask of the Assistant City Manager, Community Development Director, I know it's standard practice for OHM to follow up with a memo noting that some of these deficiencies and issues have been addressed. Can we make sure that in the future, when that letter is provided, it's also provided to Planning Commission?
Yeah, we have no problem sharing that with you guys.
Yeah, I think that would just be good for our records as well. Other than that, I don't have anything else to add. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I concur with the mayor on that concern, but I would like to make sure that the reduction is significant in the future, especially with the lot 13 that's going to be developed, that we not have this many conditions when it comes forward to us. It's not good practice, and it should be resolved prior to coming to us.
If no other questions or comments, all those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Okay. Let's see, new business, 2120, 2022 meeting dates. You have a list of them. There is a motion to approve those dates.
I'll move to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Moved Mayor Morrow, seconded Young, to approve the 2022 meeting dates for the City of Saline Planning Commission. Any discussion? All those in favor state by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it. Discussion items. Sign regulations, ordinances. Mike?
Yep, I'll kick this one off. We're going to look at this from a 1,000-foot view today because a lot of edits in the ordinance, so I want to give you guys about a month before we have this public hearing, discuss some more. But in summary, our sign ordinance is outdated. Talking with Tom Forshee, our city attorney, and going through code review, we have come to the conclusion that we have to change our ordinance because currently our regulations base our enforcement on having to be able to read the sign and see what it says before we can enforce. Unfortunately, due to recent case law, we can no longer do that. We cannot base our enforcement based on the content of the sign. So that's where these changes stem from. So the biggest changes in our sign ordinance that code review has approved is removing the content-based language throughout the document, and then just changing the number of signs allowed in a residential lawn. One issue, the reason that came up is naturally around election season. Signs can pop up everyone's yard, and then we kind of get into First Amendment right issues of what they can post. So now we're removing that content-based, but giving them still a time frame where they can have more signs in their yard based on our ordinance. So that's what we're looking at right now. I just kind of wanted to keep this high level, get some questions from you guys, I know no matter what, I'm gonna have to go back to Tom. So at our next meeting, the plan would be to have Mr. Forshee here to answer more attorney-specific questions. But this is what code review is looking to have come before planning commission.
And I'm assuming too that Mr. Beardsley, as the liaison between planning commission and code review, could also report out and provide some perspective at our next
Correct.
meeting.
Yep, unfortunately, he's not here to do that, but yeah, I can answer any questions I can right now, but yeah, like I said, naturally, Tom will be the best person for this, and that will be coming in the future when we start doing public hearings.
Dean?
I understand this arose from a number of the issues, and in fact, it was one of my signs that brought this up because it was a content issue. But what I was wondering too is at this time, have we addressed the concern that I've had is with the temporary signs, there's no limitations on those, a couple of the other things. If we're gonna get this much into this ordinance, since we've really torn apart this, I don't know how many times in the last 4 or 5 years, I'd like those issues addressed at this time too.
So I'd say if you can help me remember, type up an email, send it to me, and I can work with Tom and see if they are addressed or how
Primarily
we
the type of
address them.
those, it's the time and the issue, because I think we don't have any limitations on the number of times you can put up a temporary sign, and basically you can take it down one day and put it up the next day, which was never the intent of a temporary sign, that there is no break in the period of time or the number of times it can be put up. So that's my concern in terms of the ordinance. So, thank you.
Very good. Next item, City of Saline Board Commission request of city support policy. Mike, you want to?
Yep, so this is an initiative by city council. This essentially reflects what planning commission bylaws already does in your guys' current practice. This is just something we are requesting you guys sign to note you have received it, and it's essentially additional rules you will follow during your time on planning commission. But in reality, I believe our bylaws kind of already cover this, but a lot of other boards aren't as formal as planning commissions, so they don't have these rules laid out. So that's what this issue, that's what this item is, and if you guys don't have any disagreement, if you could please sign it.
So the form you need, we have in front of us, we want signed and
Yes,
given to you
please.
tonight. Or
Yeah, whenever you're ready, but that's the purpose of this item.
oh, all right.
What did she say?
She's going to grab a fresh one for everybody to sign, right?
Yeah, if we could, it's not a big deal, but instead of saying council member, if we could say commission member, it's written as if it's for
For the
city
council?
council. Yeah,
That will have to be at another time then.
yeah, just have us sign it at the next meeting.
Yep, thank you. Great, thank you. And then Brian, review of plans for planning commission.
So very quick, and I've had some preliminary discussions with Mayor Pro Tem Gearba about this, and the city manager, Colleen O'Toole, and I have discussed it on numerous occasions. But as a whole, I think this group, and more specifically the city's building department, planning and zoning, operates and functions quite well. I have observed, and I think this observation is shared by some of my colleagues as well, that one of the deficiencies that exists historically is that we have not done a thorough enough job reviewing existing site plans that have been approved by this body to make sure that property owners and developers are abiding by what was approved and sanctioned by this entity. So I will invite the city manager to one of our next meetings. I don't know, Mr. Green, do you anticipate we'll have agenda items on December 8th?
You will. Yep, we will have a preliminary site plan for lot 13 on Woodland.
Okay, very good. Well, then I will chat with City Manager O'Toole on Friday when I'm back in the office and maybe invite her to attend the meeting on the 8th. But we would like to launch an initiative, and I will be addressing this in my January State of the City address, a program to review existing site plans to, again, make sure they're being abided by, and if there are deficiencies or things that property owners or developers are not doing and they ought to be doing, we need to ensure that those mishaps are resolved. So I just wanted to bring that to the group's attention. Again, we can have a more focused discussion on that issue on December 8th.
Very good, thank you. Is there a motion to excuse the absences of Vice Chair Person Heft and Bill Beardsley?
So move.
Second? Second. Who said that? Okay, it's been moved. Carol seconded, Chief Hart, to excuse the absences of Heft and Beardsley. And I need a motion to adjourn.
You got to vote on that
I'm
first,
sorry.
Mr. Chair.
All those in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
I'll give you your motion to adjourn at 7:29, Chair Fosdick.
Excellent. Second? seconded Gearba. All those in favor, say by saying aye.
Aye.
Those no. Ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Paul, just one quick note, we're going to have a strategic planning meeting next Thursday, a week from tomorrow, related to our budget going into the new year, and if you could attend, we would appreciate that.
Wait, is the public open house isn't a week from tomorrow, is it?
Did I miss it? Oh, then what did I see that was posted today?
It's the
We
visit.
have a strategic planning session,
Yeah.
which is open to the public, but it's primarily for city council and department heads. The
Yep.
public engagement session is that following Tuesday, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. Is that correct, Katrina?
Yep.
Would you, Katrina, when you're back in the office on Friday, could you send an email reminder to this group? Because we would love to have planning commissioners attend that the public engagement session on the, is it the 23rd, yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
And if you have friends or neighbors or associates that you think should attend, that would be a great opportunity, especially if you have ideas on what the city should focus on in the future. And conversely, if you've identified deficiencies within our municipal portfolio, we would like to hear those as well.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.